That's ball 4. I think Puig thought it was strike 3. Carlos Perez and Andrew Heaney thought it was strike 3.
That got a lot of the strike zone.
Chris Siegel saying it did. Mike Scioscia wondering where it was at.
Again, it's not exactly where he was setting up, but that's a lot of the strike zone. Again, you throw a pitch, just because the catcher set up inside and you hit the outside part of the plate doesn't mean it's not called a strike. That's right there on the outside corner. Mike Scioscia upset about it.
And now Scioscia's been tossed.
I think he's still upset too. The strike that was called on Mike Trout, the high curveball that was called a strike back in the first inning. Especially Puig was heading back to the dugout. He knew he was beating on that fastball away.
So Scioscia will get a say here. He's been ejected.
Yeah, you can't argue balls and strike. That's pretty much an automatic ejection.
For the most part, umpires will give you a little leeway. But once they put the hand up and say that's enough and keep going, they're gone. Tom Halley, the crew chief, making his way down from second base.
Scioscia's still a little bit upset. Maybe even that 3-0 pitch to Carlos Perez was called borderline strike, and to go along with Mike Trout's called third strike.
Well, I don't think I've seen Scioscia this heated in some time. Well, he got his money's worth.
Not be surprised that Mike Scioscia took this a little bit longer than normal too, because he wants to fire up his team. You mentioned earlier, 4-game losing streak, the way the team has played on this road trip, starting out in Houston and then losing the first game last night.
Dino Abel, the bench coach, will be handed the reins.
I mean, this pitch gets a ton of the strike zone. Again, he reaches back, but it's a lot of the strike zone.
2 outs in the ninth to bring in Robinson. Check swing, and he does not go.
And another slider. Good play by Mike Zunino to keep this one in front of him. On both the wild pitches in this inning, neither one of them anywhere near the strike zone. A fastball at 95 that almost hit Hunter. Went to the backstop. Lloyd McClendon out of the dugout. And then the slider was well off the plate.
And he is going to stroll all the way out to Mike Walensky at first base. Wants to talk over that check swing. And Lloyd starting to get kind of hot. Walensky ruled it a ball, and Lloyd thinks he went around, and Lloyd might get the heave-ho pretty soon.
Well, he's trying to, but I'm not sure that Mike wants to oblige him.
He's staying in.
And you can take a look at it right here. This might be a better look.
Now Lloyd's still hot about him. Walensky, born in Washington, and has lived in Washington all his life. And a former Husky.
Now the Blue Jays have the longest postseason drought. Now Donaldson hollering at Jim Wolf, the home plate umpire, saying, "You're going to let him take shots of me all afternoon? Up around my head twice, and you're not going to do anything about it." Gibbons is going to come out to intervene. Bautista was there first to keep Donaldson into the game.
You know what? And I think if you're Jim Wolf, you got to take this. You got to take it. Gibby's protecting his players. You got to just take it. You don't throw them out of the ball game.
If Jim Wolf doesn't initiate the warning in the first inning, none of this would have happened. The players would have settled it on the field. And now Donaldson obviously upset, and rightly so, when Madsen came up and in.
And now Josh Donaldson, now he has to refocus again. I mean, he was hot. Ball up and in. It's like, come on, man, that's 2 times in a row. So now as a hitter.
And that hits him. And if Melancon's been ejected, DJ Rayburn has thrown Mark Melancon out of the ball game. And now the umpires and Francisco Cervelli, they can't believe it. Cervelli is beside himself out there.
As he should be. This is ridiculous. This is unbelievable.
Cervelli's argument here is probably there's no way we're intentionally hitting a guy to bring the tying run to the plate. That one got away from Melancon inside. And there's certainly no intent there on Barnhart.
I guess if you wanted to defend DJ Rayburn, you defend him by saying, you know, Melancon has some of the best control in baseball. He's only hit 1 guy all year long. He's only walked 9 guys unintentionally. But the common sense part of it says, for one, what would be the reasoning? Why would the Pirates want to hit one of the Reds, especially to put or bring the tying run to the plate? That's the common sense part of it.
Cervelli crouching down behind the plate. Joakim Soria has come out of the bullpen and starting to throw here. Mark Melancon pleading his case with the crew chief, Joe West, with Clint Hurdle looking on.
Joe West just said we have to, and I don't agree with that, but he says we have to.
Well, they had the ejections with the bench clearing situation preceding that. Warnings were given.
There's always warnings, and guys, you see it all the time after warnings that guys get hit and they don't get ejected because it's their opinion whether or not there's intent. So obviously DJ Rayburn said there was intent there.
So Cervelli setting up inside. The pitch inside hits Barnhart. Cervelli was upset. Kerwin Danley coming in there to get him. Melancon leaves after 1/3 of an inning. He's responsible for the 2 base runners. And Clint Hurdle will have to go with him because this was after warnings. So the pitcher and the manager will have to head up to the clubhouse.
Now, agree or not, you know, both sides. I think the Reds would probably agree that there was no intent, but they're obviously happy with the decision to get the Pirates closer out of there, but you know, these guys know, the Reds know that Melanson wasn't trying to hit Barnhart. There was no reason for it, for one, and the game situation for another.
Well, they're happy about it because the Major League's
single for Lind. Boy, Joe, incredulous. Did he just throw him out?
Not that I'm aware of. Okay, but I don't know. I did.
You can't argue a replay. Assuming he got kicked out, it's not because of his profanity. You could clearly see Joe saying what happened. But yeah, you're not really allowed to argue a replay. He's going to have his say here with Hunter Wendelstedt.
How did that happen?
Yep. Well, we'll continue to look for other angles to see if there's something that shows what the Cubs video guys saw. See, this one, the problem is you cannot see.
You know, you don't have enough angle there.
It's got to be that first angle. Again, can't tell.
It's a strike. Echeverria is out. Warren Henry drive of the game. This was the triple. Fourth triple of the season for Echeverria. And right now the home plate umpire, David Rackley, has tossed Dan Jennings. Hunter Wendelstedt doesn't have a lot of patience. This was strike three on a swing. And Dan Jennings comes out. You can't argue balls and strikes. That's an immediate ejection.
Remember, there have been a couple of those tonight. Remember the one on, was it Ichiro? That checked his swing? It was a left-handed bat.
It's Gordon.
D. Gordon checked it, didn't even come close to swinging.
Mike Estabrook going out to break up the conversation. Bob McClure saying something to Estabrook on that pitch. Thrown out of the ball game. Bob is pretty mild-mannered. He may not have been when he was a player, but he's pretty mild-mannered. But he definitely wanted to get a few cents in to Mike Estabrook. You could tell the bench was upset when Larry picked up the phone, and Pete just asked if he was thrown out of the game. Pete was on the phone. And Bob getting some words in before he heads back to the clubhouse. I think he had every right to do it. Every right to gripe.
Yeah.
And we don't know what he said.
He got thrown out, and then Bob said, "For what?" Thank you. Now go.
Well, somebody, I guess, had to say something. It's the only time really you see anybody get thrown out now is to discuss balls and strikes. The way instant replay has become. You saw Cameron was upset when the pitch was called a ball just by his body language. So now they've got to deal with Yonder Alonso with runners on first and second.
We got a lot of action in New York, even during the commercial break. Greg Gibson, the home plate umpire. This is Donaldson's second strike of his last at bat. He's called for the swing by Gibson. Donaldson didn't agree with it, and then he would subsequently strike out. They had a long little discussion about it, very camouflaged, and Donaldson turns to Gibson and says, "Are you sure?" And then Donaldson was called for the next swing on a check swing. And John Gibbons came out just like he was going to have a conversation in the park, just kind of strolled out to the dirt. And then Greg Gibson says, "What are you talking about? You talking about balls and strikes? See ya."
That was quick. You know, he came out very nonchalant, very slow, like he just wanted to talk to him about something. I guess as soon as he mentioned balls and strikes or the strike zone, that was it. So Gibby's day is through.
So John Gibbons came out to discuss the situation with Greg Gibson, and home plate umpire threw him out of the game. I think Gibbons was just trying to give some support to Josh Donaldson. He'd made 2 check swings and was called for a swing on both.
Angled to center field. He pinch hit for Mike Napoli yesterday. Had the base hit. Takes a low strike here. 0-1.
The second one, the one to Prince was down there as well.
And Lance Barrett telling the Ranger dugout, no more. Don't want to hear any more about the ball strike calls.
They made a deal with him. Don't call it a ball anymore, and we won't argue anymore.
And that is going to do it. It looked like Jeff Bannister has been thrown out. Or at least Jeff's coming out to talk to Lance Barrett and get his money's worth if he was the one that got ejected. And I think he was. Jeff's a little perturbed with the height of some of those strikes. Might have suggested they were a little bit low.
Yeah,
you kind of get that from.
I would kind of agree with him on a couple of those calls.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't generally like to get on umpires. It's a tough job. Ball's going 98 miles an hour. It's sinking around the knees. It's tough to make those calls. It looked like the last couple of balls down there looked like they might have been just a hair low.
Billy Hamilton. Pena had not yet attempted a steal this season prior to that. And the 3-2 pitch just misses. Kennedy continues to not get the close pitches. And Billy Hamilton, who doesn't walk all that often, has now walked twice in 4 innings against Ian Kennedy. And Pat Murphy wants to know where that one missed. Strike zone moved around a little bit.
Home plate umpire Tony Randazzo is giving it right back to Pat Murphy.
There you go.
So that's enough.
And he's gone. And now Pat Murphy going to get his money's worth with the home plate umpire Tony Randazzo. And the crowd here at Petco enjoying this one. This will be Murph's first ejection as a big league skipper.
You wonder if this is pent-up frustration for Pat Murphy.
Also, I think it might be sticking up for his pitcher, Ian Kennedy, because some of the calls that Holmberg has been getting.
I agree, and I love the emotion. I love the protection part of it.
You at one point heard Randazzo say before he ejected Murphy, he's been all over the place tonight talking about Kennedy. And to me, that's not something that matters. A strike is a strike, a ball is a ball.
Exactly.
Whether he's been consistent or not as the umpire, it's your job to be consistent. And a season-high 5 walks for Ian Kennedy tonight, and a couple of them certainly on borderline pitches as the frustration boils over for Pat Murphy, who's going to get a nice hand from the fans and the dugout.
Yeah.
Here's the pitch that set it all off.
Okay, granted, Austin set up away, but he frames it on the inside corner. And that's where Track's headed, number 7. That's a strike.
Well, the call of out in left field on the Preston Tucker sliding catch attempt has been overruled. And the umpires have been on the headsets to the crew in New York. The Astros have come back out on the field. And that will be a hit for Ian Kinsler. And as you see, it didn't go cleanly into Tucker's glove. He trapped it against his body, it appears. But the question is, did it hit the ground? And apparently it did. Hard to tell from that view. He could trap it against his body and it would still be a catch.
Yeah, I think that the umpires got it right. When you see a play where the ball misses the glove like that, even though you can't confirm that he didn't do as you're suggesting, then and I wonder if that's what AJ is arguing, that is there a confirmation on this play that that ball was not kept off the ground?
Bill Miller's the home plate umpire and crew chief. AJ arguing with him, and he threw him out. AJ's been tossed out of the game for arguing this replay review decision, which overturned out number 3 and gave the Tigers a run. Goes scoring on the play to make it 1-0 after a 1-minute 21-second review. The inning will continue with Kinsler at first and Iglesias batting, and Colin McHugh warming up. AJ's going to get his money's worth here.
He's getting it right now. And I think he just wanted a clarification and didn't get it. And he looked very frustrated the instant he got thrown out.
We haven't seen many arguments like this because the decisions are ultimately made in New York. And it's hard to argue from Houston with somebody in New York.
And then the question also goes, how much input do the local umpires have with the guys in New York?
Exactly.
Boy, AJ's got a very strong opinion about this, and the only thing I can imagine is was there confirmation that that ball was on the ground?
We never saw it on the ground.
We didn't. And that could be a real strong argument for AJ. Ball misses the glove. I mean, it misses the pocket of the glove. And then you lose the baseball. Well,
okay.
It's on the ground there, probably.
Yep.
But that's the only thing I can imagine that AJ was arguing.
That's the first time we've seen that particular.
Robin hands the ball to Matt Albers and then comes back and has a word with Joe West. And didn't take much more than that. Probably contesting some of the calls by Joe West with Petrichka and Duke.
Umpire. He's not allowed to argue it, obviously, and he's being cut off by Manny Gonzalez. And Fielding Colbert will give him an explanation. Now, Colbert made the call, and it was up to New York to change it.
You know, what's funny about the review, or the replay, sorry, is that why do you go out and argue with the umpires on the field when they didn't overturn the call?
Correct. That's why Fielding Colbert does not have to give him an explanation.
Right.
But that he's doing this. There can't be an argument because the argument would have to be with New York, but there has to be a rule. So we can't talk about it. Yeah.
Well, you're out there. You might as well get your money's worth.
He's going to get thrown out of the ballgame if he keeps it up.
Well, he should. He's already had about 3 or 4 times. I can't talk about it. But you're out there.
And he's just been thrown out of the ballgame. By rule, they're not allowed to go out and question the call once New York changes the call. And this is not Fielding Colbert. He made the call. He set out.
Right. He doesn't. It's not him who overruled the call.
Right. Well, Chase is very fortunate because he was there was some daylight there.
The only thing I'm seeing, Tom, is that when he steps on the ball, you know, Chase steps right in the glove. He's moving his foot because his spike is caught into the glove.
Right. I mean, that's what we're assuming right there.
He walked him, and the bases are loaded.
Usually Steve McCatty time. Let's see.
So Gio walked a catcher with 8 hits all year.
Here he comes.
Then he walked the opposing pitcher. Steve McCatty will try to settle things down here with a good contact man, Gregor Blanco, coming up.
That's about to get real loud in this ballpark.
They are in the 14th at New York, and the Pirates just scored 4-3 over the Mets. 8 o'clock here, 11 o'clock for all of you back home. We appreciate your loyalty and your endurance staying up with us all week long from the West Coast. 3 in LA. And Steve McCatty has been thrown out of the game. And Matt Williams will come out. McCatty had words for Corey Blazer halfway to the baseline, and he got tossed.
And maybe Blazer rushing Steve McCatty off the mound. And I think you could all understand what he just said right there and his sentiment about the whole situation.
Where it crosses the plate.
Well, that wasn't even borderline either. Yeah, but that's not even borderline. And he makes it up. Can't do that.
Well, I don't know if he did it. I think this the way the strike zone's been the whole game. It's been a little inconsistent.
No, but the thing about it is, the pitch he misses is not a borderline pitch. That's not a borderline pitch. Nothing about that is that's a big league strike anywhere. Anybody calls it. That. See, and Perez, I think, is doing it right. Like he's just
but he's doing it too long.
Yeah.
You know, you make your point. He doesn't throw you out. You go in the dugout.
And was it Perez who got tossed?
Was it?
I thought it was Yost.
Or was it Yost?
Oh.
No, I think it's Perez.
That's what Salvador Perez got wrong.
I'm gonna make a mistake on the side of the play. I think Sal knows how important he is to this. I don't know that he did anything to get wrong.
I don't know if he said anything to get wrong, but it was just too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never stopped. But here's the deal. He could do that because the bases are loaded. He could go from the windup. That's what he's been doing from the windup.
Oh, you know what?
You see?
You're right. You're right, because the bases are loaded.
The bases are loaded. He doesn't have to go from the stretch. And he's been doing that naturally as a windup.
That's a good catch, Huey. You're right.
And you can see what's the difference between his full windup, but that's his windup.
Well, as vociferously as Pat Murphy's arguing, after the get-together, it looks like they're going to take it back.
I think they should put it back. Bases loaded.
Well, Pat Murphy wouldn't be out there with his hands on hips if they weren't reversing it.
And remember, Dan Iasania, he's the crew chief.
He's the acting crew chief today.
See, and that's why we came together to talk about this. And I'm glad they did. To correct something that it wasn't an error.
Murphy just got thrown out.
Letting them still done. Once you get thrown out, you got to get going.
Yeah, and that's where, when you talk about Rob Manfred, is one of the things he's implemented, and Pat's going to go off now, is that, the whole time element thing. And once you get tossed, you may be saying another few words, but the umpire's basically saying we're moving on.
We're going to split screen this. The one on the left is the earlier in the game, and the one on the right is what they call the balk for. See, they're similar. With the bases loaded, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. And that's exactly, I'm sure, what the explanation was. And that's why they came together. And it's a good job by this crew to get together. Because what Lance Barrett saw was a balk if you're working out of the stretch and the bases aren't loaded. He did not have a definitive pause. Dave Roberts will run the team, and now Dave's coming out. This can't be a continuation of the same thing. I mean, well, you're going to now have the pitching coach come out, Darren Balsley. You're going to have one of the hitting coaches come out. Mark Kotze next.
Now the next question becomes, what's the count on the hitter?
Well, the balk was called, so it should be no pitch. It's almost like nothing happened.
It's just start over.
Because I don't know if C.B. Buckner, he hears balk. I don't even know if he made a call on the pitch, right? I don't recall. There's no count indicated.
Count. 2 outs. Guys are at first, second, and third. Got it.
And again, no count.
3-1 Orioles lead, and Brian Knight has put himself in the middle of the picture. The home plate umpire is. He not only threw out Sam Fuld, but he threw out Bob Melvin as well, all while you were away in the commercial break. So Sam Fuld, he was arguing, and Brian Knight threw him out.
And he said, I didn't do anything. Wonder what Larry Vanover would have done if he'd have been here tonight. See, Bob Melvin, I think, went maybe to look at the replay, and then the quick hook by Brian Knight, he was ejected.
So Brian Knight putting on a show for everybody here in Baltimore.
Well, and again, the bunt of Sam Fuld, the running path it no longer exists. So his momentum, and we have seen these, but if Caleb Joseph had made the throw that he was trying to make, Chris Davis would have caught the ball about leaning in towards fair play.
Yep. Escobar can't believe it, and I don't blame him, but technology just got in the way. Now Ned Yost has been ejected for questioning why Escobar was called safe. Now, Ned Yost is well aware of the rules. This was not Mark Carlson's call. But this is the frustration of replay right now at times, that somebody in New York who's not here, and Ned Yost is pointing to the angle that we just showed you, and the one that they showed on the scoreboard, and the one that Ned saw, and that's why he's pointing at the scoreboard. Did you even look at that angle? Unfortunately, Mark Carlson and Eric Cooper are feeling the brunt of a call that was made in New York.
Well, it didn't look like to me he tagged his front leg.
But you can't definitively say that from that angle.
All right.
A-Rod's going, and he'll steal second. Happened in the previous series. You don't hold him on. He doesn't run well, but he's a smart base runner and has another gear that he saves. So there's a stolen base. Now Girardi arguing with Iasonia. The 0-2. Strike 3. McCann down looking.
This might be talking about the pitch, the 2-strike pitch, because that one right there looked pretty good to me. I don't think Brian would argue about that. It might have been a pitch earlier in the bat when Alex Rodriguez stole the base. It looked like Joe Girardi and some members of the bench were having little comments for Dan Iasonia.
Well, you can't argue balls and strikes, and Joe's probably going to say, how do you know what I was going to ask? And now Joe's going to put on a show.
You could see that he was talking about the high fastball to Brian McCann for strike 2. The pitch that Alex Rodriguez stole on.
So Girardi has been tossed.
It is to corner.
It's not a strike. It's that far outside. Now you can tell.
Doug Eddings, who has a real short fuse and likes to take his mask off and yell at people. Yelling at Freddie Gonzalez because Freddie wanted to know where that pitch was, and he just threw Freddie out. Doug Eddings, he needs to take some anger management courses because he has a problem.
Nobody in the ballpark knew that Freddie Gonzalez said anything except Doug Eddings.
Yeah. I want to tell you something, too. Eddings is the guy that was behind the plate the night Johnny Estrada jumped up and yelled that expletive at Eddings and got thrown out of the game because Eddings was egging him on.
Whether the pitch was a strike or not, you cannot argue balls and strikes. That's grounds for immediate ejection, and Eddings obliged Freddie Gonzalez, who was tossed. Chris Coughlin, who played for Freddie down in Miami, had a word too as the Braves skipper made his way to the first base dugout. And now Carlos Tosca will handle the lineup card, and we'll see if Freddie Gonzalez's protest gets Fultonevich an extra strike or two in the game. Freddie Gonzalez ejected for arguing balls and strikes.
It's about as demonstrative as we'll see Freddie.
Saladino singles in 2, and nightmarish 8th inning, to put it mildly.
Lloyd out to the mound. Not happy
at all.
We're going to bring in David Rollins.
I don't think the umpire's going to give him the satisfaction of throwing him out either. That's the problem. That's how that. Now I know he is going to.
There you go.
He got his money's worth. Quinn Walcott. Got tired of hearing it. I thought he was going to play the veteran move and just say, "Yeah, go ahead. You're getting, you know, that's a long night for you. You stay in and take it all in."
Not a surprise.
Oh, not at all.
Really frustrated with what's been going on.
Ugly. Boy, oh boy. Scoring on that last play, Ramirez and Sanchez. All the way to third on that play was Flowers.
See if he gets his money's worth now.
Jerry Cedarstrom, crew chief. he wants Walcott to hear some. Veteran move by Cedarstrom to try to be a buffer. In his point across for the next couple of days.
Yeah, you're right.
8-3 lead, and this one has just gotten away.
Nine strikeouts tonight. Carpenter's been ejected. This strike zone has been as wide as we have seen a strike zone this season.
Mike Matheny may get thrown out before this is over too. He's trying to defend Matt Carpenter, who's already out. And this has been building for the Cardinals because the zone has been so big. And a key call, key strikeout for Kennedy with Matt Carpenter at the plate. Here's the pitch off the plate. Now it hits the glove. That doesn't make it a strike.
And strike three call. Loney's been ejected. Loney didn't like the call, dropped his bat, and put the helmet down. And Paul Nart, with a quick trigger, has ejected him. And the Rays have lost their first baseman.
James Loney is livid because he said, I didn't say anything to him. He turned around, look at his mouth. Well, he did not say anything at Paul Nart. He looked back at him, looked back, and then just, wow.
So an ejection there of James Loney.
Down in the count 0-2. Got a leadoff double.
And Strasburger taking strike two. He was kind of disguised that as long as he possibly could instead of getting the sacrifice down. He was thinking bunt base hit. Now he's down in the count, no balls, 2 strikes.
And these are the situations where you've got to execute. You have to get that bunt down somehow, some way.
Now Jeff Bannister coming out to talk to Adam Homari. Be quite honest, I'm not really sure what the discussion's about. Apparently, somebody on the Ranger bench was overdoing it a little bit and might have gotten thrown out. I'm not sure. But Bannister coming out trying to plead his case and not very pleased with the case he's pleading.
No, I couldn't see if he tossed somebody, but it looks like it from the way Bannister's going at him that somebody got tossed, and I'm trying to figure out why, because if somebody was barking, it's one pitch. Typically you have a little bit more time. Oh, still can't see from there. Boo's right there in the background, and he didn't really say anything.
That wasn't him. It was somebody down the middle of the dugout. And now Jeff is going to continue with Ron Culpa, the crew chief. Got to make sure that, hey, these guys do have a right to go ahead and express their displeasure if they want to, as long as they stay within the bounds of normalcy. And apparently, Amari's idea of normalcy was not what he was being accused of. We will try and get that cleared up and pass along to you who was the victim of that ejection.
Please
now, it looks like Adrian Beltre is up there in the top step.
You've got to be kidding me. How can you hear anything from that far away about one pitch?
Yeah, and you don't hear Adrian. You don't see Adrian argue about hardly anything. And he's up there barking at Ron Kolpa. And it was Adrian that got run, apparently. Because Kolpa's telling him you got to leave the dugout. Bannister making sure that Beltre doesn't go on the field. Boy, I hope that's not the case. And now Bannister's been thrown. Well, if Beltre got run for questioning the balls and strikes call, I can see why Bannister's going crazy about it. He should.
Yeah, not obviously us not knowing what was said from up here, but it just seems like that was just a quick response there to throw somebody out of the game, and then Beltre from down there at the corner of the dugout, and it was the home plate umpire that tossed him. So I'm not sure what Beltre could have said from that far away, because this, number one, the dugouts are huge.
Yeah.
And that's a long way from home plate to the dugout.
I don't know what you're going to say from 100 feet that Amari is going to take personally like that, to be quite honest.
Last night. Strike 3 call on Puig. The ICL very slow to depart after the James Hoy call. And he's out of the game.
I don't even know if he said anything to get himself tossed.
I don't think so. He just flipped the bat down in disgust. And now Don Mattingly is out there to talk about things.
There's a way umpires can find a guy for tossing the bat or a helmet or whatever without throwing him out of the game. Number one, that's a good pitch. So wear that sucker.
That's what he did. He flipped the bat down. Didn't look like he did say anything.
Well, I think the toss comes about now.
Now it's Carl Crawford batting. 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts for Crawford.
Check his swing. Strike 3, says Dave Morales.
Oh, here comes Paul Molitor.
Somebody's already been ejected. Either Sano or Molitor.
That's the second time in this ball game that Gabe Morales.
I think Paul's telling him he's already tossed me out. Morales made an ejection sign, and now home plate umpire Chris Conroy, and a bit of redundancy, I think, here, has thrown manager Paul Molitor out. Maybe it is Sano who was tossed. And that looked like a check, but the one that I think set this up was the Dozier one back in the first inning.
That's very close right there.
And then shortly after our replay, he made an ejection sign to, could have been either for the manager who was already out on the warning track or the batter himself. At any rate, there's been an ejection. Sano strikes out, and the Twins are down to their last out. It's Trevor Blue.
As time was called before now we've got Jeff Francoeur popping out of the dugout. Dan Bellino says sit down. The Mets come clamoring toward Hansel Robles. Hernandez pops out. So does Boa, who's just been ejected from the game. And Larry Boa is not happy with Dan Bellino. Oh, Boa, we haven't seen Boa this high.
I think he just tossed Pat Murphy.
This plate umpire has not had a good night. I mean, he's been inconsistent on his ball strikes. Oh, he's pointing out at Harper in center field. That's why he continues to point out there.
there it is. Got to go. Pat's getting his money's worth, and I don't blame him at all.
He was getting down in the crowd so he could look up into his eyes.
And the crew chief, Hunter Wendelstedt, trying to step in.
I'm sure that Murphy's reminding him, you've got 4 of you guys out there, and not one of you saw that when everyone else in this side of the field saw it. They even saw it way up here.
That's the problem I have. I mean, get together. And if all of them didn't see it, you know, you have to deal with that. Got to remember, fans, this is about wins and losses. And for Pat Murphy, every single game indicates how important this is. And I love this passion. He should. Because right now it's a 4-3 ball game. But unfortunately, with the grand slam, it's 8-3.
In Milwaukee next Tuesday, we'll see. Ray Searage has an idea. Questions about Tyler Glasnow again today. Glasnow is pitching tonight for AAA Indianapolis. And now Cervelli has just been thrown out of the game by Alan Porter. Francisco Cervelli just got tossed by Alan Porter, the home plate umpire. Here comes Clint Hurdle to try and get in between so it doesn't cost Cervelli anything more than just tonight. Here comes crew chief Jeff Kellogg. Didn't see a whole lot of. I mean, that was a pitch that could have been called a strike, and moments ago we saw Alan Porter give a struggling rookie lefty a strike against Cervelli. Remember, Cervelli was at the plate, and that changeup that was well off the plate from Justin Nicolino. Alan Porter gave the pitcher that strike, but he didn't give Garrett Cole a borderline pitch just a moment ago.
Oh yeah, there's definitely carryover. I mean, that's a big at bat. You have bases loaded, a 1-1 pitch that's a good 4 or 5 inches off the plate, and Cervelli obviously a good eye. He knows the strike zone as well as anybody, and he wants it both ways. The strange thing about this, though, is a catcher and an umpire, they have so many discussions during the course of a game, and unless a catcher shows up an umpire, they are not going to get thrown out.
Well, Clint Hurdle is saying you let the players play. Alan Porter was basically saying I had to, and Clint Hurdle saying no, you didn't. Dave Joust, one of the coaches, trying to get Cervelli off the field. This is the heat of a pennant race. The Pirates, every win is precious, so this is just not an ordinary ejection from the Pirates standpoint. Alan Porter ejects Cervelli.
Little number front of the plate. It is a fair ball. And he's been ejected. Sandoval not only out, but now out of this game. Hirschbeck had hurt enough.
And what did he say to throw him out? That's what Lavillo's asking. I mean, I didn't see Sandoval say anything. It's a split-fingered fastball topped, and it stays in fair territory, as you can see clearly right here. Sandoval does not run.
So two unassisted on the play.
I don't know what he said when he turned around, if he said anything, but that was a very quick ejection. Let's get a look from this angle if he says something. Looks like he's walking away. Then says something, and Hirschbeck throws him out of the ball game.
Scythe. A little ground ball rolled to short. Backhanded pick by Escobar. All out the call at first. And the Rays dugout to a man think he was safe.
Well, we're going to obviously take a look at this one. Oh, you know what?
Yeah, Brian O'Nora starts to walk away. And Kevin Cash has been ejected. So Honora barking back at Cash. Boy, you certainly wish that you had one left, because you'd love to review that one. Honora calls Forsythe out at first. Cash has been ejected. And here's a look. It's not even close. He was safe. And now Honora ejects him. That adds insult to injury. It's a 3-2 game.
It'll be up to Scott to finish this half inning off for Jorge.
This is when De La Rosa he got thrown out as Walt was walking out.
See, to me, that's a quick trigger. I know he looked in and glared about where was that strike. He ripped off his mask and told him it was outside. But short of those two and the catcher, who else knew what was going on in the ballpark?
We see from 60 feet away, we see umpires, and excuse me, pitchers, getting after an umpire.